What's going on, Soul Tribe? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to my channel, Alchemist. Justin here, and are you ready to set some intentions this week? Because we got some serious energy to work with this week. We got the benefics talking, Venus and Big Papa in a lovely conversation. We love that. We have the sun that's entering into Capricorn. So before we get into it, I think this is the one for the balloons. Yeah, happy birthday, Cap! Looking at y'all. We're getting ready to get into this is solstice period, whether it be the winter or the solstice, depending on what hemisphere you're in. But we're getting ready to get into another one of those cardinal points. There's a shift that's happening in the energy. And then we have the sun. It's a lot of sun energy and a lot of Jupiter energy this week that we're going to be talking about because we got Jupiter and Saturn. They're having a conversation too. We're going to get into all of that. But before we do, if you're new here, my name is Justin, and one of the things that I do is talk about the Celestial News Weekly, the chit chat that's going on up in the sky. And I will be covering the week of December 19th through the 25th. It was a Christmas time if you're over here in the States. And let's get into it, and probably wherever else you celebrate Christmas. But let's get into this. Let's get into this thing. Because on Jupiter Day, the 19th of December, at about 6:10 p.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, the lovely Empress, Venus, is going to be forming a trine with Big Papa, Jupiter. And this is going to be happening at 14 degrees and 37 minutes. Venus is in Aquarius and Jupiter is in Gemini. So first thing, when we're talking about the trines, we love some trines. Trines are the most beneficial aspect. I remember reading somewhere where they're like Jupiterian in nature. So they're bringing a lot of flow. They're bringing this ease, this new beginnings. It's knocking walls down. And when we're talking about Venus being in the fixed sign of Aquarius, I like Venus in Aquarius because Venus's nature is to attract, to magnetize, to bring all the things that she needs in order to establish harmony, establish peace, establish this beauty. And so this is focusing on all of those things that would bring that sense of Zen for you. And then this trine, one way I could see this translating as is providing the resources, the bountiful resources. If anything, with Jupiter and Gemini, it may be too many options to achieve this thing. And that may be the sort of double-edged sword, maybe with this trine energy, just because Jupiter is, just something I should have mentioned too, Jupiter's retrograde right now. And so these resources that may come in, it may feel like an inundation, or it may seem like a lot and just like not a lot of good quality stuff too. So something I would say with this trine is to practice discernment. Really kind of do some research, like pick a couple of things, like let's see how we feel about it. I would say be mindful about getting lost in that fear of missing out. Like, there's just like all of I'm getting like, I just got the picture, if you're familiar with tarot, of like the Seven of Cups, where you have like this figure with all these options in front of them. And so that's something like a pitfall, I would say, just to be mindful of with Jupiter being retrograde in Gemini. But for the most part, just look to see where this is happening in your chart, because this is where some flow, a lot of ease is happening right now. Another kind of tangible example, this would be happening between my relationship house, just for me personally, my relationship house, and that's where Venus is, and then Jupiter's in my house of like future hopes and dreams, friends, things like that. So this could be, and that might be something that I need to catch up with some friends as far as like, maybe they can give me some advice as far as like different. Actually, I was just actually talking with someone to maybe get on a podcast with someone or do like a dual sort of thing. So that's something that's potentially getting into the mix there. But just see where that's happening for you and see what comes up for you, because there might be some really cool stuff that you can build off that could have some very kind of long lasting effects, which would be very nice for this next energy that we're going to be talking about. Because on Saturn Day, the 21st of December at about 1:21 a.m. And again, that's Pacific time. The sun is going to be entering into Capricorn. And so when we get into Cap season, like I was saying, this is a solstice point. Whether this is the winter or the summer solstice for you, this is a time where the sun is going through one of those cardinal points and is getting ready to get towards that ascension and get ready to get burning hot back in Aries again. And now the sun is under the rulership of Saturn now, which Saturn is in Pisces. And so there's this nice conversation that the sun is going to be having with Saturn here a little bit later, and actually is going to be having a bit of a tougher conversation with Jupiter, which again we'll talk about later as we get into the month. But the sun in Capricorn. When we talk about Capricorn is their modality is the cardinal, so they're one of the initiators of the zodiac. Their element is earth, so they work very well with, just on a base level, just think about the body. That's just one of the biggest kind of clearest manifestations of you. The thing that contains the powers, the imagination, the soul, the everything that is you. And the earth signs work very well with that. They build things. They can just say just movers, shakers, empire builders, and especially Capricorn being ruled by Saturn. Saturn brings that discipline. Sometimes Saturn can take away in that where it seems like Saturn may be punishing you, Saturn makes you resourceful. And when you're working with learn some tricks and trades and things, you can build a lot. And then when you have when you get like those really kind of big breaks, let's say with like a Venus-Jupiter transit, then it can really kind of like, oh, I have like this excess. Now I can kind of tuck some stuff away here. So, kind of move some things around. But when we're thinking about Capricorn, I like to think about like your long-term plans. This would be a great time to look at see where your progressed moon is. If that's not something that you're familiar with, see what's going on. My progressed moon actually just entered into my second house, so that's that's fun. thinking about that money, but that's another thing too. Look at to see where you have Capricorn in your chart, because now the sun's lighting that up. The sun's lighting it up and is bringing some insight. So this is going to be the sun shining a spotlight on this house wherever the sun is traveling. And so see what comes up for you during this time. What are some downloads that you're getting, some inspirations? What are some intuitive nudges that are coming for you? What are you feeling inspired to build, to create with this sun entering into Capricorn? This can be a very constructive time for the sun to be in, and to just get any sort of things that maybe you've put aside, maybe any sort of like projects and things that maybe you just started and then got too busy. Go dust them off, pick them back up, get some momentum with them that can tie in nicely with that Jupiter and Aquarius energy, just attracting more just lovely things. And who doesn't want that? But maybe there's a little bit of tension there, just because as we move on from this transit, as shortly after the sun has entered into Capricorn, on Mars Day, the 23rd of December, at about 2:39 a.m., the sun is going to form a square with the North Node. And this is going to happen at 2 degrees and 5 minutes. Sun in Capricorn, North Node is in Aries. And keep in mind, too, when we're talking about the North Node, we're always talking about the South Node because they're opposites one another. And so there's this dual square that the sun is forming with the North Node and the South Node. And I have to look to the families, but this might be one of the last. It's definitely one of the last squares that's going to be happening because then the nodes are getting ready to move into Pisces in the Virgo axis for the next 18 months. So 18 months. So when we're thinking about this North Node, South Node, I like to think of the North Node as where you're kind of going, the direction. It's like I remember reading somewhere, and I really kind of like this. It's like wherever that house, the North Node is falling in, that's becoming more of a focus. And where the South Node is, it's not that we're ignoring that. It's like we can use that area to regroup, to kind of like, okay, this is where I've came from, and this is what I need to, this is where I see I've hit a wall and where I need to grow from. And in order to get to that growth, you need to look to the opposite thing. And that's where the North Node, also known as the dragon's head, again, with South Node being known as the dragon's tail, the tail, you don't necessarily need to look back all the time. It does its thing. It knows how to wag it. It keeps you balanced. But you need to look forward to kind of see, not kind of, to see where you're going. So there may be these insights that come up when the sun enters into Capricorn, when you reflect on, and that's some nice things to do, I think, when the sun enters into a new sign, especially if you're working with whole sign, this is entering into a new house. But it's like reflecting on what does this area of this chart mean for you, and just see what comes up, and then see where there are some where you want to grow, and are there any kind of resistances that are coming up from that? Like, are you afraid to leave a comfort zone, and then why is that? What are some steps that could be done in order to get towards those things? And then maybe you can set that as an intention to work towards during this new moon cycle that gets ready to come up, when the moon, and the sun and the moon have their conjunction, and then see what what comes up for you there. So these are just some practical ways to work with the planets. It doesn't have to be where you have to do one thing with the Jupiter transit, one thing with this, one thing. You can all tie it all seamlessly and make it just all flow really nicely, and just meet yourself where you're at. That's a really nice thing too. Think about, like, okay, present. I think the transits are another great way too, to just kind of reset. Okay, what am I been in the moment? How have I been? Has time been feeling like it's been moving too fast? Has it been feeling like it's moving slow? Like, what's been going on? Where have I been? And yeah, just to kind of get back into, just recalibrate, when you're working with these transits. That's another really nice thing that I personally like using this for, especially when I'm following, like, my lunar returns and things. It's just like, oh my goodness, okay, I'm just starting to get into this new theme here, and it's time to get started. And this area of my life does need help. Sidebar. I actually just went into a new lunar return, like I was saying, and it's the same house as it was, not this last one, but the one before. And the one before, I could have done better. I could have done a lot better. And so now I'm getting a reprieve. We're getting there. Well, we're getting there, actually. Yes, one day at a time. But we are getting there. And it's actually getting me prepped for Capricorn things. Sixth house stuff. I love it. So just some things to work out. And this will take us into the last transit. Because then on Mercury Day, the 24th of December, at about 1:59 p.m., Jupiter, Big Papa, is going to be forming a square with Saturn. And this is going to happen at 14 degrees and 1 minute. Jupiter is retrograde in Gemini. Saturn is in Pisces. So this is the second square that's happening between Jupiter and Gemini. The first one, Saturn was retrograde and Jupiter was direct. So Jupiter had more of a pull there. But even thinking where this kind of falls, Saturn still kind of would technically kind of have the upper hand here. But Saturn would have been weaker during that time in retrograde. But now that is kind of the reverse here. There could be this need for expansion, but there may be a restriction with Saturn being in Pisces, it may be okay, I have this dream, but when I hit a wall, then if you get like super frustrated, if you get this thing, maybe get derailed, something along those lines, the emotions start to come up with that Saturn and Pisces, then maybe there could be a challenge in that aspect. Or maybe there's something with, again, you have to see where this is where Saturn may be restricting you. Because I'll tell you, I'll give you an example. Saturn has been going through my 8th house, which is shared resources, debts, and things. And where I'm getting things taken care of, I do feel that the shared resources, and I mean, just like I'm talking about, like in all aspects, as far as like how I give my energy, as far as like when I'm talking with people and things along those lines, and being more emotionally responsible and not just like taking it all on and just like absorbing it, but also learning that balance of not being just completely shut off too. So that's been like an adjustment. And then Jupiter's like affecting my future. It's just like how my future is growing. And so it's like it's been an interesting period, because where Jupiter does well, like celebrates in the 11th house, it's still in detriment in Gemini. So it's just like it's it's a mixed bag. I still love Jupiter. Always love Jupiter. Jupiter and I have a real tight relationship. But we'll be back in good graces in 2026 when I get my Jupiter return. But until then, you just got to work with the energies. Got to work with what's going on here, and that's what Saturn and Jupiter, the square is. I could see this just kind of working with the resources that you have right now, and I mean the physical sort of like resources, the material or the emotional resources, your time, your energy. That would be where I could see the challenges, and maybe you find yourself wanting to, or maybe even having to do all of the things, and it's just like, okay, well, how can I divide up the time? There's like, I need 100 hours, and there's only 24 hours in this day, so what are we gonna do? And then just figuring out how to prioritize some things, and because this is happening between mutable signs, there are gonna be some things that maybe need to close out. It's like, okay, Jupiter and Gemini is like, all right, I could do this, but that's going to take me a hell of a long time. Then if I were to do this thing, this is going to give me bigger results for this, which will eventually get me to that. It's like, may have to do a little bit of chess. I know I'm kind of speaking very generally here when I'm talking about these transits, but there are just so many different combinations that this could translate as. And sometimes it's not even just looking for a bunch of things. Again, the houses can be a really great signifier to help you get a focus. It's just like, okay, how am I feeling about the themes of this house, and where is there with this square tension? Because that's it. I don't think I said that with the square aspect. They're kind of martial in nature. That's why I like to think of them as like that Mars quality. And they can provide, there could be a call to action. So there could be some frustration, some delays that are coming up, especially now that Saturn, again, is direct. I could see this as, all right, like Saturn gave you some time to work through what you need to, but now you got to take take what you got and roll with it right now. And then when Jupiter goes back direct, when is that going to be? When does Jupiter go direct? Jupiter goes direct in February. So once Jupiter goes direct, and then they have that final square, you may get the results that you need. It actually reminds me of the card that I got today. It kind of reminds me of I got the Two of Pentacles to get today. And it's this figure, I'll show you. It's this figure that's juggling just kind of juggling life right now. Just kind of juggling a few things right now, trying to work with, make the most of what he's got. And he's got a lot to work with that big cap. He's got a lot of ideas that he's working with, but there's a lot of changes here in the ripples of the waters and things. And I bring that up too, just because the Two of Pentacles, that's Jupiter energy, because that's Jupiter in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign that Saturn rules. And so I just found that interesting that I got that, and that's like this big transit that we're kind of one of the big, that and like that trine, but this is going to be one of the bigger transits that's going on this week. So be thinking about that. Where are some areas that you want to grow? What are some restrictions with that? How can you make the most with what you got and not let that be something that's frustrating? Let that be where, I got to get a little resourceful, but man, you're going to pick up some, the thing about getting resourceful is that you do pick up some cool tricks along the way, and you come to appreciate those little things later on down the line. So, but yeah, that's all I got for you there on these transits. A lot of growth this week, opportunities for some course corrections as always. And if you're wanting this to be a little less vague, you wanted to work with this more personally, down in the description box below are a link for all the services that I provide. So if that's something that resonates with you, avail yourself of that. And then also, if you want to know what's going on with the lunar shenanigans, kind of talk about all the moon stuff, come to my other channel, The Chariot and Friends. I do videos every time the moon changes different signs, so you get plenty of me. While you're waiting for me to release the stuff for the week, you got some lunar stuff to carry you through, get you to see where the emotional roller coaster is going. So those are some other ways to get some stuff from me. So, but until next time, keep raising that vibration and that consciousness through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one, Mercury Day.